pass me the aux cord. I want to put the greatest hits on. Hello! Today I'm going to ramble about Vantage Point's corp cards for an extended period, and then rate them. What are we even doing, man? So this is a set review. I'm going to be discussing all the cards in Vantage Point and giving some early impressions on the viability of each. This is going to be from a competitive viability perspective, but I'm going to talk about stuff that I just think is really cool too. I've played every card at this point, but only just. Barely. This is hardly the final word. I'm just giving first impressions based on first contact and some deck building and theory craft, talking with metamates, and testing a little bit. I've been told that some folks prefer to listen over watch, so I'll be reading the cards before I give ratings and opinions. If I miss a particular piece of a card or what have you, I apologize. I don't typically do this. Also, I do the corp cards before the runner ones because generally speaking, runners operate within the confines that corp players create. They kind of build the board and then the runner runs it. It's split into two videos because 66 cards in a row is a lot, and I am only one guy. There's also a third reason, which is that I think the runner cards in this set are kind of difficult to evaluate, and I need more time with them. I haven't quite sussed out how I feel on all of them yet. So, yeah, corp we can do. So there's a 5-point rating system. 5 is meta shifting, it's a strong build around, potentially best in slot and roll. 4 is solid, maybe a few notable issues, strong, less exploitable than a 5 in some kind of way. 3 is decent, or a specific role player, or it has competitive alternatives, or just niche use cases. 2 is not great, has clear weaknesses, it's outclassed in its niche, maybe it's a hard sell. 1 is oh no. Please remember that there is nuance within these ratings. A 5 doesn't just mean, oh my god, the card's broken, ban it now. It just means, whoa. Like, that is whoa. Also, a low rating doesn't mean a card's not fun. I'm going to say nice things about cards that I rate poorly, and I'm going to say mean things about cards that I rate highly. It's a card game. That's how it goes. Alright. We're doing HB. Card 26, Melies City Luxury Line, or just Lux Line for short. 5/3 Agenda, subtype Expansion. As an additional cost to steal this agenda, the runner must spend a click. When you score this agenda, gain a click. Yeah, that's 4 monorails out of 5. Oh, look, it's a little baby eco. That's so cute. So the liminal ban makes a bit more sense with the context of another HB agenda that grants clicks, but I don't want to overstate the value here, beyond Econ and Hermes recovering most of the time. The main draw is playing this in Leo as yet another means of click taxing the runner into submission. No purple ID is going to suffer for having access to a reasonably defensive 3-pointer again. It's been a minute. I think runners are going to realize, like, oh crap, I can't even run on the last click after I run the remote over and over anymore. That is a very, very strong thing to be able to just take away from them. And this isn't at all practical, but I have a mighty need to triple advance with wage workers, install a new agenda, and big deal it. I have to do this eventually. It's on my Vantage Point bucket list or achievement list or whatever you want to call it. I need to get that. I need to do it. Also, Neurospike or Myoshu, call it. Number 27, Synchrocyclotron. It is a 3-cost, 3 to trash, 2 influence asset, subtype facility. The first double operation you play each turn costs 1 click less to play. 2 washing machines. Out of 5 for this one. It is an act of cruelty to make people read this card name out loud. I have seen people trip over Synchrocyclotron. See, I just did right there. So many times at this point, it's such a hard card to say. I'm probably just going to call it Synchro for the foreseeable. Anything that circumvents the 3-click limit on corp side is powerful, but this is a lot more limited in applications than you might initially assume. The doubles that see play are pretty light at the mo. I'm not going to show the entire list here. The dream is playing this in a deck with Flood the Market, which we'll get to. Installing, flooding, recovering with fully op in 1 turn. In practice, getting all those variables to line up against a runner pool that's increasingly capable of fighting a wide board is a little iffy. Runners have already teched pretty well into fighting against wide, as wide is really good right now, and Synchrocyclotron does not advantage you in any meaningful way beyond costing the runner a click in 3 to keep you off of it. Problem is, if you're building around Synchrocyclotron, you probably need it. So, not ideal. I've not been impressed with this thing yet. There is absolutely a world in which this ends up being broken, though. The right double will change the game significantly for this card. As it stands, we're not living in that world yet, I don't think. But still neat, still really powerful. If your board goes unchallenged, or if you manage to score, say, aggressive trend setting, and they just can't manage to trash your stuff, this is going to do a lot of work for you. So neat card, definitely a fun build around, just not something that I'm super jazzed about yet. Number 28, Ansel 2.0. 8 cost. We got a lot of ice, by the way. 4 pieces of ice to go through, so I'm going to have to read a lot of words. 8 cost, 5 strength, 4 influence, Sentry Bioroid Destroyer, has the standard 2.0 Bioroid text where you can spend 2 clicks to break up to 2 subs. 4 subroutines, trash 1 install runner card, remove 1 card in the heap from the game, you may install 1 card from HQ or archives, end the run. Also, this is a champ card. Good job, Patrick. Unfortunately, I'm giving this 2 baby drivers. The question with any new Bioroid from now until the end of time is, what does it do for Leo? And the answer in this case is, I mean, it's big. So the 2.0 double click is as oppressive as ever, and these subs are great. But 8 credits means you're never going to sack this unless it wins the whole game, and a 5 strength sentry is surprisingly surmountable with popular killers. Echelon and Revolver, really Revolver being the big one, can get past this just fine. And this has been an issue basically across the board. I don't think having a giant sentry like this in particular is necessarily where you want to be in HB, especially when it costs that much. If I'm playing a gigantic knockout ice in HB, it's probably still going to be tier. If you consult the breaker math, which, by the way, my metamate, Carrick, very kindly updated the breaker math sheet, or really, rather, made a new one, for Vantage Point, and I will be including that in the description for your reference. You will see the math on tier is not really better. It's not significantly better. You'd think 2 cost, 2 strength, it's like, oh, wow, the math on this has got to be improved. Not really. But if you're cheating the cost out, which for these really big pieces of ice you might well be, you might as well get your money's worth. And I think the tier click condition is a little bit better than the 2.0 Bioroid condition. So that's where I'm at on that, unfortunately. I do think that you could go either way with it, but honestly, tier is not amazing right now anyway, so it's sort of competing for a niche one-of spot already. The ceiling on this feels kind of low, I guess, is what I'm saying. Number 29, Reverb. This is a 4 cost, 2 strength, 1 influence, barrier harmonic. Res cost of this ice is lowered by 1 for each other unresed piece of ice. 2 subs, end the run, end the run. I am giving this 2 fart with reverb sound effects out of 5. I will not fall for the harmonic psyop. I will not fall for the harmonic psyop. I will not fall for the harmonic psyop. This is potentially a decent gear check on its own, and can function outside of harmonics, but it is clearly meant to be there, and it's kind of middling even amongst its kin. I'm not super into it. Harmonics are not my favorite. Everybody just wants to play Bloop. I get it. Bloop rules. Bloop is awesome. That card is bananas. As it stands, though, Reverb is a basic gear check that is cheap as free for almost every fractor out there. It's just not... This isn't doing much. By the time you set up enough unresed ice, either by install or Realic trickery, and we will talk about that, is this actually doing anything? I am not convinced that it is. I think that this card is a little too toothless to really see play right now, especially considering you have a special condition to get it to do things. Number 30, Sleipnir. This is a 4 cost, 4 strength, 2 influence code gate, 3 subs. You may draw 1 card. You may shuffle 1 card from HQ or archives into R&D. End the run. 4 spinning horses out of 5. 4 for 4 with pretty good subs and an end the run. I didn't know code gates were just allowed to be decent. Wow. Yeah, this is really good. With the exception of stuff like Euler, no commonly played decoder breaks this for less than cost, and most of them are worse. The math on this is the same as NPOT, only the subs are always live. So that's nice. Much like NPOT, this is a mathematically strong piece of ice that will likely go underused, but I'm going to sing its praises anyway because it deserves them. This is absolutely like that solid early to mid-game piece of ice that just demands a solution. The one thing I'll note is that I feel like runners are going to let that top sub fire a lot, especially with let it fire incentives being more of a thing on the runner side now. You may draw 1 card is kind of whatever. There's even cases where that's an advantage for the runner, but that's cool ice design. We like that. And in terms of just breaking the thing, yeah, this is just good math. Decoders are really still having a moment, but yeah, you'll play this. This is good. Number 31, Vertigo. 1 cost, 1 strength, 2 influence, surprisingly. Code gate. When the runner passes this ice, if they have no clicks remaining, they cannot steal or trash corp cards for the remainder of this run. 1 sub, the runner loses a click. I'm giving this 4 Hitchcock Vertigos, and I think I might not be being generous enough. This might be a conservative rating. It's probably not a good sign that I looked at this and immediately thought, oh, Thule support? Hell yeah, dude. I love this card. This is the gross part of Enigma with a particularly nasty lingering effect. It'll only catch runners occasionally, but when it does, they're going to lose the game. Like, this is a massive rider to just stick on a run with basically no answer to it beyond hushing it, and if they're hushing Vertigo, oh, you're sitting pretty. It's not necessarily Glacier Ice, but I do think sliding this into a Leo server with Mersha kind of rules. It's sort of serving as like an additional upgrade, except it just exists in your remote, or in the ice part of your remote, rather. Very specifically does not combo with Luxury Line, in that if they get hit by this and Luxury Line's condition comes up, they were going to be locked out anyway. That's probably for the best. If this cut an additional click off of the runner and then set them up to fail Luxury Line, that would be just miserable, miserable, miserable. There are a lot of cool things that this does. This does effectively turn Volnaught into Lux Line in Leo. That rules. But for the most part, oh, and of course in Thule, right, you have to do the Thule tax, and that gets a lot harder with Vertigo. So yeah, tough, tough, tough. Between this and Paywall, actually it doesn't get tougher, right? I didn't phrase that well, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. It's a nice additional bit of click pressure. Between this and Paywall, which we will talk about later, it's looking pretty nice for wide HB. This is just a really good, cheap piece of ice. I like it a lot. 32, Caveat Emptor, 5 cost, 3 influence, operation, transaction. I'm probably not playing this one in Zviki, but whatever. Resolve one of the following. So this is a 2-mode operation. You either gain 6, and the runner loses a click for their next turn, or gain 10, and the runner gains a click on their next turn. So I'm going to do the math for you really quick. That is net gain a credit, runner loses a click, or net gain 5 credits, runner gains a click. I'm giving this 4 day 1 No Man's Skies out of 5. Also, I know No Man's Sky got good eventually. It's actually quite good now, but come on. Uneven value props are one of my favorite things in card games. This one is surprisingly tough to evaluate, but I'm pretty solid on it overall. Gov, let's do the second mode first, okay, because it's a little easier to talk about. Gov sub, but the runner gets a click, is probably decent. In the early game, you're likely to get far more value out of a big chunk of change than the runner is out of one more click. The problem is you don't really know that. There are cases even in the early game where handing them one more click could be a disaster. And it's really going to come down to your ability to evaluate what's in front of you. The board, the player, etc. But that first mode is really why we're here. It's really interesting, okay? It can create impossible scoring windows in Leo. That's cool. It's a little tough to engineer it, but you can do it. Sometimes 3 clicks is just not enough against Leo. In other decks, I think the most notable thing about this is that it sticks an Oppo tag, which is vile. There are going to be purple decks that want to tag you that will play Oppo because it is the premier tag operation. And it will basically go something to the effect of click 1, do whatever you want. Click 2, Caveat Emptor for mode 1. Click 3, Oppo, 4 tags. You have 3 clicks. Solve. And they can't. And that is very, 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 very strong. I don't 100% know what that is beyond just Thule trying to kill you, but I feel like it warrants that note regardless. My logical brain wants to rate this a 3 because I don't think we fully cracked it yet, but I think a 4 is reasonable given its potential, and it's such an easy way to constrain the runner on demand. Also, a modal card like this that can really swing either way if you draw it early versus if you draw it late, and then shift roles over the course of the game, is a very exciting prospect. I just think this card's design is really neat. If it did either one of these things, I probably wouldn't be really up on it, but the fact that it can shift roles is just dope. Also, God, look at this smarmy jackass. I love him. If I was in need of an avatar, I would absolutely rip this dude and make everybody stare at him every time I say something on the internet. 33, Realic. This is a 0 cost, 2 influence operation. It is a double, notable, synchro. As an additional cost to play this operation, spend a click. Yep, that's a double. Choose 2 rezzed pieces of ice. For each chosen piece of ice, gain credits equal to its printed res cost, then de-res it. Okay. So I'm giving this 4 copies of C for Dummies out of 5. Welcome back, Blue Sun? That can't be right. Hold on, wait a minute. Okay, no, I know it's not the Shan. Shut up, all right? It's a joke. I love multi-purpose cards that do as many things as this can. I think Realic is incredibly cool. Do you need to get liquid? You can do that. Do you have on-res effects that you want to reproc? You can do that. Did you get discounted or free ice that you just want to print money with? Go for it. Do you want to just adjust your board? Maybe a piece of ice isn't doing anything anymore and you want to install over it, but you want to get a refund in the process. Fine. There are a zillion ways to squeeze value out of Realic. I think this card has immense potential. Let's talk about a few of them. There's cards in every faction I want to use this with. Ablative, Lycian, specifically to refund it before it dereses itself. Anemone, Cloud Eater, Ping, Serevna, Logjam, Stavka. There's a zillion different cool effects that you can do, again, with Realic to apply pressure. 2 Influence is not prohibitive. This could be anywhere. At any given moment, they could absolutely do a bootleg Blue Sun impression, and this is something you just need to be aware of that exists now. I absolutely see a world in which the nastiest pieces of ice in the game will get another lease on life in the same game, applying pressure like mad. And I think that is incredibly cool, especially when you introduce additional discounts like Vovo and what have you. Yeah, I think this card is sick. I think everything that it can do, like we've only scratched the surface, and it's just potential. Love it. 34, Retirement Plan. 1 cost, 3 influence operation, also a double. Notable. As an additional cost to play this operation, spend a click. Install an agenda, asset, or piece of ice from archives. 3 401ks out of 5. So I want to just note, this is thematically the scariest card in the set. Because death is just against the TOS you agree to. Back to work. It's absolutely hellish. They even made the bioroid old. Like, it's just, oh, God. Gives me the giblies. This is a decent recursion card that is held back by A, being a double, and B, not letting you pick up ops or upgrades, which are the 2 most busted things you could do in that order. They know better. They've learned from archive memories and what have you that you can't really let people do that, so they made it either agendas, assets, or piece of ice. In practice, this feels more like an asset spam tool to me. Not just because it could, work with Synchrocyclotron, which you really don't need. For saving key, high trash cost pieces than anything else. Barring edge cases where you use it to push an unforeseen scoring window. If the runner bankrupts themselves through an ill-advised run or just like overspending, you can absolutely just go get an agenda. Like, that is neat. In practice, that's not what you're going to be doing most of the time. Also, I think that, like, as an anti-ice destruction piece of tech, it's a little too intensive. Because it doesn't even ignore ice install costs. Like, come on. We could have maybe ignoring all costs wouldn't have been the end of the world. No, I think this card is fine. I think it will serve its purpose. I find it difficult to be excited about it. The hardest part here is just finding the slots, if I'm being real. But, when is that not true? Last HB card is number 35, Perfect Recall. 1 cost, 3 to trash, 2 influence, upgrade. When you res this upgrade, and whenever an agenda is scored or stolen from this server or its root, place a power counter on this upgrade. And for a counter, spend it, reveal 1 card on HQ. The runner cannot steal or trash copies of that card for the remainder of this run. Use this ability only during a run. 3 total recalls out of 5. I am glad this defensive upgrade has the decency to come in with a counter. Foreshadowing is a narrative device, and this is an amazing way to protect HQ and a decent way to protect other places. At the cost of info, A, and needing to have a second copy outside of HQ, B. So, using this to protect HQ is sick, because you just flash the card you don't want messed with, and you're good. Like, it's just over. It's already done. Using it elsewhere is a little bit lucky. I'm not a huge fan of it, but you can deck build with enough dupes that, like, Perfect Recall gets a lot better. I'm not necessarily against that. It's also impactful enough that 1 use can be worth it for 1 credit. I absolutely see a world in which you would do that. But you really want to leverage it more to warrant slots, and the runner will almost certainly trash this on contact. If they're running HQ and use it to protect something, the runner's going to look at that and go, okay, I guess we traded a 1 for 3 and I didn't get the nice thing. That is really powerful. That is a kind of like Chrysium adjacent sort of effect, but it's not as good. That said, neat. The real trick here is that you won't ever get to keep it if they steal an agenda from its root. So it needs to go in your remote, but lining up all those variables is harder than it appears. I don't love this card, but I do think that it's a really neat take on a defensive upgrade, and I'll be interested to see if it ends up sticking around long term. The absolute worst case is that this is a decent thing to throw in there if you're a little light on influence and you just want another way to protect your stuff. I also just think it's a decent way to trigger a Trent Grid. Like, this is solid. I don't love it, but it is neat for sure. It's jinteki time. Number 36. Melies U. Only the brightest. I'm gonna be real with you. I am not reading all of these cards to you. I'm gonna tell you what Melies does. So the base function of this thing is that this is a flip ID. And it is a flip ID with 3 cards. When your discard phase ends, you secretly set your identity to any copy of Melies U. When the runner makes a successful run on a central, you're going to flip that card. Okay, so let's talk about that before we talk. Well, no, I'll do the rider. When the runner's action phase ends, you gain a buck. So what that last part means is, let's start there. If they do not successfully run a central, you're going to get $1, kind of like you're playing RH. Okay. If they make a successful run on a server, you flip the identity you picked. There is an HQ, R&D, and Archives version of Melies U. And if you guessed correctly, if you successfully identified where the runner was going to successfully run on your centrals first, the effect is the same no matter what. You look at the top card of R&D, you may trash it, kind of like Noothing. And if you do, you can add a card from Archives to HQ. All right. I'm giving this 4 jinteki biotechs out of 5, and I might not, it might be a 5. It might legitimately be worth full marks. I'm being conservative here, and I probably should not be, because I think this ID is incredibly sick. Mucho texto. In summary, my favorite corps, historically, have all offloaded all the hard choices on the runner. That is exactly what this does, on a level that most IDs can't. If they don't run, first of all, you're effectively RH. Cool. Fine. Good baseline. Once they do, you need to have predicted their first central hit, you knew them a card away, and then you have something worth recurring. You almost certainly do. That gets easier, that gets basically guaranteed from the mid-game on. In the early game, you're still likely to, like, go get a hedge fund or something. And it includes the card that you just milled. You are never forced to mill an agenda without recourse. You can always go pick it up. That said, the HQ and Archive options are a little bit weaker, as the runner will then access the central that you indicated, meaning anything that you trashed and left there, if it's stealable, or anything that you pull to hand that is stealable or trashable, is vulnerable. Okay, notable. It's very good against R&D. The only thing you have to be aware of there is if you shed an agenda, you know, that's one less agenda they can get, but if you shed something else, that makes the agenda density in R&D marginally better. Okay, little considerations to make there. You will typically pick R&D or HQ, and honestly, you're probably only going to strongly ice one of them. Forcing an Archives run with no penalties in it, just to deny you a proc, is value on par with some of the strongest red IDs in Netrunner history. I would just want to point that out. If the runner's wasting a run just to go touch your trash to deny you a Melies proc, you are turning them into a 3-click runner. That is amazing. On top of that, they printed Eska in this set, which we will get to, but running the bin is going to suck too. Also, you can ice it. Like, you know, the way you distribute ice matters immensely in this. Not only can this ID recur bites, which is like my favorite thing in the world, and put the runner in the grinder forever, which is not my favorite thing in the world. It can also be a legitimate seamless launch recursion menace, or allow you to recast the most painful kill tools forever, or do whatever your gross little red deck enjoy your heart desires most. This ID supports everything. It does it all, because the worst case for you, beyond just being totally wrong forever if you just can't figure out what the runner is up to, is that you get a buck. And that's ETF. That's ETF, that's RH, that's amazing. Biotech is legitimately one of my favorite IDs of all time. If you look up Fugu on the DB, yeah, that was me, hi. This is just straight up better. I love this ID. I am going to play the hell out of Melies. I want to shout out, Not Yeti did a video, basically a Melies hype reel, and I 100% agree with him on basically everything in that. I love this ID. The potential is incredible. There's no archetype you can't play out of it. The minigame is fun as hell. I just love it. One of the coolest designs we have had in ages. This ID is amazing, and people already hate playing me with it because I have turned it into just horrible, horrible kill decks. Yeah, I might actually just bring like a fast advanced version of this or something to districts because people are already starting to tech against me just using it to tag people and kill them. Whoops. Yeah, I love Méliès U. Truly amazing ID design. It is wordy, and there are ways that you probably could have phrased it a bit more elegantly, but at the end of the day, the mechanics here are just so good. All right, I need to move on. Also, it's a 4515. I didn't call that out earlier. Standard stuff. Anyway. Number 37, Lotus Haze. It is a 4-2 agenda, subtype security. When you score this agenda, place 3 agenda counters on it. For a hosted agenda counter, you may move 1 resed upgrade to the root of another server. I'm giving this 2 2005 Lotus Elises. They're red. That's cool. This fails the is it better than what we already have test. Hard. Like a 2005 Lotus Elise, it's super cool, but it's impractical, and you know that in your heart. So in a scenario where I already scored this, built my remote, and bamboozled the runner, yeah, that's called win more, friendo. I'm sorry. I really hate to be a downer. And dodging pinhole is funny, right? It's not worth multiple agenda slots. Like, there are things you can do with this that are really funny, where you, like, scoot this around in weird ways, and you avoid stuff getting trashed where it otherwise would. But at EOD, is this worth it? It's not. It's not. My skepticism of this card's counters increases for every single piece that you need pre-installed to make something significant happen. If you score a Lotus Haze early, 1, you're probably already doing pretty well to just jam out 4-2s. Second of all, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Every additional piece you're using also probably doesn't do anything. It just doesn't do anything. Consider how often your upgrades already successfully do their jobs, and how the agendas you already play help that, especially off-off. Does this contribute on that level? I will leave that for you to decide. Number 38, Eska. This is a 0 cost, 3 to trash, 1 influence. Asset is an ambush. My favorite subtype. While the runner is accessing this asset in R&D, they must reveal it. When the runner accesses this asset, they lose a credit. If they are tagged, do a net damage. So I'm giving this 3 honey farms out of 5. But do not let the rating fool you. This card rules. It's just not game obliterating. Ambushes always bring me great joy. Doubly so when it costs 3 to put it in archives where they have to touch it forever. Because what are you going to do? Host it on Cup and never cash it out? No, archives is just poisoned now. It's good in RH for sure, because a penalty for flipping, for flipping archives definitely matters. But it's a particularly solid Méliès card, because it allows you to pick the other 2 centrals most of the time. If they get you steer them into archives, right? And then you make them choose between knowing they're going to lose money and potentially taking that damage, or giving you recursion, and that is genuinely horrible to play against. You can also just play the mind game where eventually, if they've decided Eska's worth it, you just pick archives anyway, and then you get double value. It is absolutely catastrophic to have to run through a Funatria before this. That is a really underrated piece of ice. I'm a big fan of it, and I think that any list that's trying to kill people in, like, Melies or Egg or what have you that's going to run Eska should really be running a copy of Funatria to dump on the bin. It's going to be a problem. I love this thing. Also, this is going in GameNet whether you like it or not. Moving on. Number 39, Ezam, Maze, backwards. 1 cost, 3 strength, 2 influence, piece of ice. It's a code gate. For a click, you may swap it with another installed piece of ice. Okay. 2 subs. Look at the top card of R&D. You may add that card to the bottom of R&D. And then each piece of ice gets 1 strength for the remainder of this run. 2 Halls of Mirrors. Out of 5. Oh, it's 3 cheap jinteki ice and a trench coat that we've seen before. And it's worse than at least 2 of them. Okay. So compared to Thimble Rig, obviously this is going to come up short, right? This doesn't end the run. It costs a click to scoot. Compared to Chum, from way back in the day, it's weaker both in strength and its disincentive, because if they ever checked a Chum and couldn't do anything with it, they would leave. Compared to Yagura, it doesn't give them a paper cut. So what's even the point? I'm not into it, I'm sorry. It is undeniably nice that you get a 3 strength code gate with subs that matter for a whole 1 credit. I will absolutely give it that. And I'm a mark for cheap ice. I am the market for this. I love this kind of thing, but of all the 1-costers we got in this set, this is my least favorite. I'm not really into it. I would be surprised if this sees a lot of play. Number 40, Knowledge Seeker. It's a 5 cost, 5 strength, 3 influence code gate. Whenever an encounter with this ice ends, if it has 3 or more hosted virus counters, purge virus counters, derez this ice. 3 subs, place a virus counter on this ice. Look at the top 4 cards of R&D and arrange them in any order. And end the run. This is designed by Sokka. Neato. I'm giving this 3 owls from some show. I don't know where it's from. I think Sokka just likes designing cards that do a list of largely unrelated things. It's very Deuce's Wild Core. I think it's neat, but anyway. 5 strength anything with end the run on it is worth at least considering. The price is low enough to make its funky derez condition worth it if you consult the math. Again, in the description. Good positioning and res timing will do most of the work to keeping this face up. Ideally, this goes on R&D with something in front to maximize the second sub's value, or the remote just to be a big-ass code gate that says stop, and then it'll get run less often if it's on the remote. Probably. So, full context, I was originally more down on this card, and then I realized that if this ice's counters are removed by any other means, it stays res, and this shares a faction with Mavirus. Yeah, this is a pretty solid piece of ice. I like it quite a bit. It is, once again, like, one of those things where you absolutely let one of the subs fire. And when I initially drafted this, I was going to kind of, like, not generously compare this to Little Engine, where it has the good sub at the front for some reason, as opposed to at the back. But I do think that the numbers on this are pretty good. I think that, again, it's tough to be a code gate right now, but this is still solid. This is definitely a lot of code gate for your dollar. And I think that the second and third subs are pretty significant. So overall, neat. And just an interesting design. Again, it's ice that does stuff, right? So, like, I'm compelled. 41, Lion's Mane. 6 cost, 4 strength, 3 influence, ice, sentry, AP. 3 subs, no fancy text on it, just 3 subs. Do 2 net damage. Do 2 net damage unless the runner pays $3. Do 2 net damage unless the runner jacks out. 3 Big Kahuna Burgers out of 5. Alright, I got a Big Karuna. Who ordered the Big Karuna? This is not a particularly fancy sentry, but 2 net, 3 credits, and an end the run is a damn fine face check. You can't reasonably evaluate ice assuming it's going to fire, but in the case of an early sentry, if you catch somebody out with this, you're getting a lot of value. 4 strength is functionally 5 strength most of the time. Again, if you consult the math, all of the popular breakers, for the most part, break 5 just about as easily as they break 4, meaning that this is quite solid for its cost, with the exception of Revolver, which beats everything anyway. That's already true. Another case of mathematically good, if not meta. My god, this Liga art is so good. Look at this thing. I want this on a playmat. I want it on my wall. I love the look of Lion's Mane. Oh my god, it's pretty. Also, just like in general, I've actually found this to apply really good pressure. I like this quite a bit. Again, it's just like, oh, good math on ice, spiky subs. Yes, bene. 42, Bisek. I might have that slightly wrong. Let me consult the pronunciation guide that is on the other screen right now. Vicek? Okay, yeah. 2 cost, 3 strength, ice, trap, AP Observer. Okay. 2 subs. Do X net damage, give the runner X tags. X is equal to the number of tags the runner has. Second sub, give the runner 1 tag, trash this ice, and then a very amusing little bit of wavy flavor text there. I like that quite a bit. So I'm giving this 3 bless my bones from me like these out of 5. But it is vitally important that constructed card games have cards that are cooler than they are practical, and this card is cool as at least a few cucumbers. This requires more work than most trap ice. Most trap ice shows up, does its thing, and leaves. But at the absolute worst, this is going to stick a tag a la ping against most runners. And Jinteki likes tags a lot in this set. That's pretty good. The ridiculous ideal scenario is something like Mutually Assured Destruction or a stuck Oppo into firing this next turn, probably with Unleash, a card that we're gonna talk about. Oh, god damn it, this is an Ob card, isn't it? Yeah, it might be. At 3 influence, it's a little pricey, but Ob only needs 1 copy anyway. So, yeah, okay. I have already died to this via Mitra once. I just want you to know that that's a thing that's coming. You're gonna have to deal with that at some point. Not great. Moving on. 43, Cultivate. 0 cost, 1 influence operation. Look at the top 5 cards of R&D. Trash one of those cards. Add one of them to HQ. Arrange the rest in any order. I'm gonna be a little mean to this card, but understand that I still think it's neat, okay? So I'm giving this 2 precognitions out of 5. This is definitely better than precognition. Easily. Yes, it is. It's also way worse than bacterial programming by a lot, for obvious reasons. Backpro was premier. That thing was ludicrous. Its numbers were better. It was an agenda. You would feed it to the runner on purpose. It was so good. This is not that. One whole inf means it can go anywhere. That is pretty neat, but it is hard to imagine anyone but the most inf-independent kill lists bothering to import this for one. So really, I look at this as a jinteki card despite the low influence. There are NBN decks that I could see this happening in, and maybe some weylands where you're just like, oh, they're at measure threshold. Shit, let me go find this. But I don't know. I'm currently iterating on a Melies kill deck. Opponents, early reviews are in, have called it a nightmare, and oh god, that would love an effect like this to seal uncertain deals. And even there, I struggle to justify the slots over cards that actually do something. I would rather just draw, in most cases, than play slots in my deck devoted to Cultivate. And also, like, holding Cultivate in my hand over and over and over for when things go bad, not my idea of a good time. Admittedly, it is kind of cool when you take the Melies mind game into effect, though. I also really like that it lets you plop a card into archives. In particular, I'm a big fan of how this basically settles R&D for the next 3 accesses, while also handing you a tool and pitching something that you can then utilize in jinteki. This card is cool. I like it quite a bit. I'm just having a lot of trouble making good use of Cultivate at the moment. Down the road, we'll see what happens. If anything, this rating is going to go up, but as it stands, I'm not super into it. 44, Unleash. It is a 0-cost operation. It's a gray op, by the way. 2 influence. As an additional cost to play this operation, remove a tag. Res 1 install piece of ice, ignoring all costs. You may resolve 1 subroutine on that ice. 5 Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed is out of 5. What the fuck? Ice has text? Since when? When I say the game needs impactful single tag punishment that isn't just end of the line, this is exactly what I mean. I'm not even going to rattle off all the awesome things this 2-inf card can achieve in every single faction's card pool. The list is enormous, and the value from the free ice sticking afterwards is immense. This card is a ton of value for a whole 1 tag. Oh my god. Even if this doesn't end up becoming massively impactful in the competitive meta, I am still giving this card full marks for being one of the sickest tag payoffs in the entire game of Netrunner. I cannot tell you how cool it is to have to go and look at every single piece of ice in the entire game and then be like, okay, can I stick a tag, and if so, how much value can I glean out of this? The fact that you can hold a giant piece of ice if you don't want it on the table, install it turn of, tag them with like public trail or whatever, and then res it and burn them, oh my god, this rules. Sticking 2 core with... I'm not going to get into the subs. I will be here all day. I have had so much fun with this card. It represents so much power. It does so much work. It is the sickest thing. I think this is probably my favorite corp card in the set. Oh my god. Like, Melia is obviously an identity. It's awesome, right? But, like, Unleash represents just such a great riff on tag punishment that, like, I don't think we've had the likes of in a while. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Oh my god, what a card. Okay. I have to move on. I have to. But yeah, love it, love it, love it. All right. 45, the Red Room. 1 cost, 3 to trash upgrade, 3 influence. Said that in a weird order, whatever, it's fine. It's a facility. Central server only. That's important. The first time each turn an agenda is scored or stolen, place a power counter on this upgrade. For a hosted power counter, end the run. Use this ability only during a run against another server. There has been quite a bit of digital ink spilt on Red Room, and I'm here to tell you that this is a 2 empty Red Rooms out of 5, in which a storyteller gives an advance hint of an upcoming event later in the story. Closing out the bit. This isn't a bad card as much as it's incredibly inconvenient to get value out of when you actually need it. Alright? Defensive upgrades exist, historically, to be set up before scoring to protect the agendas. The Red Room is backwards. It only serves the purpose if the corp is wildly ahead or the runner is beating them up while also leaving this alone. This has to live on a central, you know, the place where agendas leak. And they're leaving it alone? I make it make sense. Not going in the remote itself is interesting, but it's generally a net negative because the most well-defended server is typically the remote that you jam agendas into. So you can't put it where you actually want to protect it, or you could already, you know, you've already invested into protecting your stuff. You have to put it somewhere else. This was never going to be BioVault. I can only reasonably be so disappointed, but I am disappointed. I have seen people get really mad at getting red roomed, but I just don't see a world in which a jinteki deck is able to reliably chain out agendas to keep red room up while maintaining a taxing server, or where, in the case where a steal gives it a counter, the runner is suddenly incapable of doing literally anything unless they spent to 0 and messed up their rig to make that run. So, yeah, I think this absolutely punishes poor play, and that's going to feel really bad for people. But overall, I'm not feeling red room, sorry. It is not happening again. Alright, we're into NBN. Number 46, Editorial Division, Ad Nihilum. 4515, standard. Identity Division. The first time each turn you take bad publicity, you may search R&D for one non-agenda Black Ops, Grey Ops, or Liability card and reveal it, and then you shuffle R&D. Add that card to HQ. 4 Bass Pro Pyramids out of 5 for this one. I wanted to give it 5 just because there's 5 pyramids in the art, but I just couldn't quite convince myself to do it. Sorry. Close enough. Welcome back, the outfit. Shame you can't play Red Cap, but you have all the tags in the world now. This is a fairer cost for a tutor on an ID than the likes of Ob, but good lord, this thing assembles kill combos ridiculously fast. I have never felt so confident in my ability to have it. You know how you always like, oh, we have to assume they have it, right? Editorial Division has it. Editorial Division always has it. I was going to include all the compatible cards in this video, but I wildly underestimated how long the list of Grey Ops is and how good they are. Grey Ops in particular. Like, obviously Black Ops, like, oh, I go get End the Line. Yeah, for sure, but like the Grey Ops are really good too. It's rough out there for runners. This ID requires that you build around Bad Pub, which is historically challenging, but there are more powerful tools to leverage it than we've had in a while. Any stuck tag is even deadlier than usual. Run, Seb, run. Yeah, this is going to be a toughie for Seb, for sure. Like, on the one hand, yes, he gets good value out of the Bad Pub, but the tag stuff is going to be a nightmare for him. This is going to feel disproportionately powerful for the first month or so, because runners are going to be unoptimized, and they're going to make blunders that will kill them stone dead far earlier than anticipated. The kill lines are not going to be internalized yet, the editorial players are going to surprise them, and it's going to feel bad. Eventually, this is going to taper off into some solid, but not tourney-ruining archetypes. Have fun at districts, though. By the way, that's coming up. I'm going to include a link to the districts that we're heading to in North Carolina at Atomic Empire at the end of the month. It's going to be great. You should go. But anyway, yeah, this is going to dominate the early field in a pretty big way. Kill always feels stronger early. It's as stuff gets optimized and runners start to settle that scoring starts to feel better. An Editorial Division, to me, really just feels like this is an ID that exists to find fancy ways to kill you, and the Bad Pub is, like, incidental, although there's a lot of really cool Bad Pub stuff in this set that we haven't talked about yet. Notably, Vulture Fund is, like, just a ludicrous value prop in this ID. So yeah, I think that what you're going to run into here is that this is going to have kind of that Nebula effect, where it's like, oh my god, this feels unassailable. But unlike Nebula, which is just kind of buns and has had cards taken from it, I think that Editorial Division represents kind of like this is a really solid kill archetype, and you just have to be able to play against it, because it's going to be able to get the thing it needs no matter what. Even if they end up, say, like, banning out End of the Line or whatever, there's enough really nasty stuff that this can do that I think its power will remain. Putting a tutor on an ID is just really, really good. Number 47, Witch Hunt. It is a 4-2 agenda initiative liability. Notably, though, let's back up for a second. Can't tutor agendas, okay? Just putting that out there. When this agenda is scored or stolen, take a Bad Pub. Ooh. When your action phase ends, if you scored this agenda this turn, remove all tags, then give the runner 3 tags. Okay. So I'm giving this 3 tags out of 5. As a result, it's math. I am not convinced that the world premiere of Medium Oppo is worth it for any ID but ED. which, by the way, is a very unfortunate acronym, because the bad pub on steel is just too damaging. I don't think that other NBN IDs really want this much at all. There's a world in which Synapse could play it. I'm not really feeling that. This does, however, let you punish a steal next turn guaranteed, right? So you can, in ED, take a bad pub and then immediately pull the thing that hurts them. But you only get the tags on score. So what are you tutoring beyond Oppo? Most of the time. Generally speaking, you're going to pull Oppo because Oppo, that's the exact condition by which Oppo is played. It's the best case scenario. There are other things you could be doing, but at the end of the day, how often are you going to do those? How often are those as good as just tutoring for Oppo? But on the other hand, the score scenario is really nasty. Like, anything that steals a turn from the runner is strong, and you get to follow up with whatever flavor of legal activity you're feeling if they don't clear all of it. It's end of the line, by the way. You're following with end of the line. Thank God you can't chain witch hunts with the ID tutor. That'd be a nightmare. I briefly forgot that the first time when this card was revealed, and I was like, oh, witch hunt chain? No. Whew, okay, we're good. Also, my Toxic Week 1 jank, I wrote will has involved. Feeding this to a runner, using it to tutor game over, then tutoring another game over. Do not live like me. Although, I have already yanked out SS Spine with this, so, maybe live like me a little bit. Maybe be the JNet problem while the game is still fresh, yeah? Alright. 48, Magistrate Revontulet. 2 cost, 3 to trash, 4 influence assets, an executive. As an additional cost to steal an agenda, the runner must pay 3 credits. When you score an agenda, the runner loses 3 credits. And so I'm rating this 3 futs, because it's math. Okay, we're never getting Bologna back. Understood. I get it. This is a fut level threat in the right deck. It just takes longer to kill you stone dead, and is marginally more matchup dependent. I don't think this is quite as good as fut, but it is a fut style effect that the runner looks at and goes, oh hell no, that has to go, and is potentially game ruining if they let it ride. This is one of several instances of, oh, you tried to use all those new stealth cards? Cute, be poor forever. I don't know, and this is a preliminary thing, because again, we're not doing the runner cards yet, and I'm still feeling out the runner side of the pool here. But it really does feel like a lot of stuff in this set is very punishing towards runners that are trying to make use of the new cards, and this is one of those things. If they are utilizing stealth heavily, but they need to make use of some amount of money at all, a Magistrate just says, no, okay, well, be ready to be broke. Get ready to die to measured, buddy. Just gonna leave that one there. We're gonna move on. Number 49, Nihilo Agent is a 1 cost, 3 to trash, 2 influence asset with Enforcer and Liability as subtypes. When you res this asset, load 3 power counters onto it. When it is empty, trash it. The way this card works is weird, so I'm going to read it verbatim, and then we're going to talk about what that actually entails, okay? When your turn begins, remove a tag and 1 bad publicity. When your discard phase ends, give the runner 1 tag, take 1 bad publicity, and remove 1 hosted power counter. So the card ticks down at the end of your turn, gives the runner a tag for their turn, gives you a bad publicity that will last until Nihilo happens again. Okay. 4 Frakes out of 5. It never happened. Obviously, this synergizes with ED, right? It has the bad pub, it flickers, it means you get a tutor every time. But can we talk about the Synapse support too for a second? Yay! This triggers Synapse for you, reliably, every time it fires. That's really cool. Keep in mind that if this fully resolves, it will stick you with a bad pub and the runner with a tag that they have to remove. You need to overinstall this thing before it finishes in order to stay clean if that is something you are concerned with. 3 tutors in Editorial Division is bananas, but that is not its only use case, okay? Consider that giving the tag or the runner a tag on their turn lets you do B1001 things. Capacitor. F2P gets turned off. Hell, Starlit Night sort of becomes a real piece of ice. That last one is iffy, but I wanted to include it. Even if the runner trashes Nihilo after just the first res, they're still going to have to run it, pay 2 plus a bad pub to trash it, then have to clear the tag, and this makes them oppoable. The amount of value that this represents is surprisingly large. If you are an ID that is compatible with Nihilo Agent, which is, again, I think that ED and Synapse are really where that's at, but there's a world in which Epiphany might like this. This is a lot of power to be able to just have, and again, you can control, assuming the runner doesn't trash it, if you decide you're done with Nihilo or not. The more I talk about this card, and the more I experimented with it, and the more I brewed with it, the more I realized just how obnoxious this is going to be. I'm rating this card as highly as I am, but not because it's busted, not because I think it like defines an archetype or anything like that, but because I think that Nihilo represents an immense amount of power to put on the corp side of the board, and it is a really, really unequal value prop for the runner. The pressure, the pressure, the pressure. It's super cool. This is also the kind of Synapse support I'm really happy to see. I hope that we can get Synapse to where it needs to be, and I think Nihilo will be a big part of that if it gets there. Number 50, Grubber. 5 cost, 5 strength, 3 influence piece of ice. It is a barrier and liability. When you res this ice, if it is protecting a central server, take a bad pub. 2 subs. End the run unless the runner pays 3 credits. End the run unless the runner pays 3 credits. Twice. 4 Bran Flakes out of 5 for this one. I was not a believer in Grubber. I initially read Grubber and I was like, okay. I mean, it looks great. I love the hand turn style. It looks super cool. But once I got this to the table, once I played it in ED, and I saw just how taxing it was, I turned around on it fully. I think that this is a really solid piece of ice. I love that this can go on the remote as a wildly taxing thing in any given deck and not hurt you. Or it goes on a central to be ridiculously taxing when you know they're going to get through anyway, but you want them to spend 6 or whatever. And it does its job. And you get the bad pub and you can do the thing. Barriers can in large part be judged by how well they tax Propeller. And good news, this is nearly as taxing as Bran. It's 1 less credit. Oh no. Yeah, this is really, 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 really good. Being able to dodge the bad pub, yeah, I mentioned this already, but if you just want to make a remote suck to touch, legitimately interesting, has a variety of applications. It's actually answered incredibly well by Corsair, which is really funny, but Corsair's not that good, and that's seen less play than basically every other stealth breaker in my experience thus far. I'm not going to get into why I don't think Corsair is great here, but suffice to say, while this, it does handle that pretty well, it's probably not going to matter. That's not really material. Grubber is good, Corsair isn't. And no, this isn't actually yellow Bran. Let's not get too silly. Like, obviously, Bran is still one of the best pieces of ice in the entire game, but Grubber's really good. I like it a lot. It's a very NBN way to do this. Number 51, Leafy. 9 cost, 6 strength, 2 influence, Sentry Observer piece of ice. Whenever the runner bypasses or fully breaks this ice, give them 1 tag. Ooh, okay, so this is ice that does something. 2 subs. You may add 1 card from archives to the top or bottom of R&D. And you may add 1 installed runner card to the grip. Also, I just love Drink Deeply and Forget. I know I haven't been doing the flavor text, but I love the presentation on this as one of my favorite cards in the entire set, although I am very biased. However, I'm giving this 2 copies of Dallair's Book of Greek Myths out of 5, unfortunately. Well, it's better than Seraph against non-face checking runners, and that's not nothing. I like that this is a big, expensive piece of ice that does something. Truly, okay? It is cool for that. I will give you that. A guaranteed tag on full breaker bypass is super nice, given that both of these subs are deceptively gnarly. They are effective subs. I really wish this had more teeth. I don't know if I would want it to have a 3rd sub, or if I want one of these subs to be a little bit meaner. But as good as these subs are, when I pay 9 for a piece of ice, I really want it to do a little bit more than this. This has felt pretty underpowered for what it costs at the moment, despite the fact that it is 6 strength, and that does create some really gnarly breakpoints. I like it okay, it's just never quite felt like enough. The problem here isn't the subs or even the math, it's huge. The problem is finding slots in a deck that can afford it. There's a hypothetical vegan Unleashed deck, like Synapse, that'll love this card, but is that actually good? I'm just not there yet. I want to believe in Leafy, but I have yet to really be convinced by it. It is neat, though, and I appreciate it for that. Anyway, that's for another time. 52. Paywall. 1 cost, piece of ice. 1 strength, 1 influence. It's a barrier. When the runner encounters this ice, they lose a credit. 1 sub, end the run, unless the runner pays 1 credit. 5 pop-up windows out of 5, baby. My favorite NBN ice is back almost unchanged. Let's go. Woo! Alright. So the switch to barrier won't matter a ton beyond Physarum, but 1 strength means trashing it requires a tiny bit of effort, and I appreciate that little bit. This is not going to single-handedly bring GameNet back when you could be playing it in a good NBN ID or anywhere else for a whole one influence. But GameNet got a lot of stuff in this set, and people have been experimenting. I've been underwhelmed with it, but I could see a world in which GameNet is back. And that, Revontulet, like, there's a lot of stuff that gives me hope for Eska, also. And this is that, right? Like, this is a wide NBN ice to the core. There is no wide deck that isn't perfectly happy to park this in front of any given asset. It rules. Really good in anything that wants to run fully op also, because, hey, guess what? It's going to be taxing to do anything about this. I love the flavor of this so much. It being a wall and a barrier, but specifically not weyland rules. This is just, this is a knockout. I love this card top to bottom. Everything about this is great. You're going to be seeing this thing a lot. I don't see a world in which Paywall doesn't see play. I don't know how much, like, the Epiphany, like, super wide NBN is necessarily going to continue to be a thing, but I can tell you that, like, any kind of NBN deck that is not just tall loves Paywall. Yeah, this thing is sick. From a design perspective, I'm just absolutely in love with it. Even the art, this is another one that I want, like, on my wall, right? Like, I love this. I would use a playmat for this, and I don't even play with a playmat. I'm a heathen. Yeah, super neat. Number 53, Flood the Market. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but 3 cost operation. It's a double, 3 influence. As an additional cost to play this operation, spend a click. It's a double, like I said. Choose 1 installed card you can advance. Place an advancement counter on that card for each remote server that has a card in its route and is protected by ice. So again, this is doing the fully op style effect of checking for a full server. Okay. I'm giving this 3 Temus out of 5. I'm a fully op enjoyer. Obviously, I like this, but I'm not convinced it'll end up being meta just yet. This is a remarkably click-intensive and potentially expensive way to score an agenda, especially if the runner is actually running your board. If the runner is able to keep up with you to any extent, Flood the Market, ironically, is going to just sit in your hand clogged. It's not going to go anywhere. You'd be reasonable to think you need Synchrocyclotron, but no! The click save turn of is rarely the deciding factor. That's not really an issue. Like, it is a perfectly reasonable thing to have your board built and then flood the market. Either do a thing, then flood the market, or have it already be built. The runner didn't run that, didn't run that turn or whatever. You flood the market, and then you fully op if the agenda was already on the table, right? So, like, it's fine. You're fine paying another click for this most of the time. Install agenda, flood the market is legit, especially because it can fill the server that it's in. If this card had a trash cost, I would give it 2 Temu logos. I think it's very fair for a fast advance card. I don't think it's busted. I think it's very interactive, and I think that the runners have the ability to deal with it, which I appreciate. But it also means that, the card is fair, and therefore it gets a fair rating. Number 54, Scapegoat. This is a 0 cost operation. It is a gray op. It is 2 influence. Resolve one of the following of the runner's choice. Mode 1, remove 2 bad pub. Mode 2, choose 1 installed runner card. The runner shuffles it into the stack. 4 copies of Scapegoat the board game out of 5, which, by the way, excellent game. Enjoy it greatly. I have already used and abused incredibly strong bad pub effects for 0 consequences with this thing in and out of faction. It single-handedly legitimizes playing bad pub cards in IDs that normally wouldn't. You would have to try to play this card poorly enough for the runner to pick the second mode. I honestly don't know what it would take for them to take that. I've never seen a runner do it. I don't know what they would do, frankly. There is always something on their board that they value more than just letting you have the bad pub gone. I think over time, as we get accustomed to this card and what bad pub actually looks like in high-level play, that might change, but as it stands, Scapegoat's first mode is basically the default. Also, free my girl Zaya. She absolutely did whatever it is they're saying she did, but she deserves better. Come on, she's got kids. Like, no, I think this card is sick. I think this is the kind of, like, a bad pub support piece that was really needed to be able to play it in ice-heavy lists, like scoring lists and everything, so you can play the bad pub things without just horribly ruining yourself. I'm really glad this card is here. I think it's a great release valve. Really well designed, overall. And then last for NBN, I believe, I don't have the list in front of me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. 55, Hype Machine. This is a 6-cost upgrade. It's an advertisement. 3 influence. As long as an agenda was scored or stolen this turn, the res cost of this upgrade is lowered by 6. Trash it. Place 1 advancement counter on a card you can advance in the route of this server. I'm giving this 3 Hype Snakes out of 5, which, by the way, here's another reference for you. If you haven't played Card City Nights, do. It's a joy. This is a near print of calibration testing, but with wildly fluctuating costs, and that's neat, I think. More so than any other card in this set, this is actually the one I'm least comfortable making a preemptive value judgment on. One, because I've barely played it, and I wasn't super impressed with it, but I see the potential. And judging a fast advanced tool is hard. The fragility of this and the funky timing has me bearish on it, but it's undeniable that the effect on this is really strong. If this was less than 3 influence, I'd run it in HB or Weyland Rush, but as it stands, it feels like an NBN exclusive, and it lacks an immediate obvious home beyond certain kinds of epiphany. I'm struggling with Hype Machine a little bit. I still haven't cracked Synapse yet, if Synapse is going to be cracked. I'm not quite there yet, and I think it could go there too. As it stands, I am struggling with it, but like when you use this thing, it's so impactful that I can't rate it lower. And yeah, of course, I'm scoring this above average because, come on, it's calibration testing. Like, that's good. I'm not going to fault anybody for wanting to play this. It's solid. It's just a little bit tough. We are in Weyland, and I want you all to know that of all the factions here, I think Weyland has the highest bar of quality for these releases here. There are cards in the other factions that are more impactful, but overall, I think NSG really did right by Big Green on this one, and it starts with Sacrifice Zone expansion. 4 advancement, 2 points agenda, public expansion. Public is back. Install only face up. This agenda is neither res nor unresed. The first time each turn you advance this agenda, gain 3 credits. Okay, kind of Oak Towny. Once per turn, when the runner makes a successful run on another server, you may remove a hosted advancement counter to do 1 meat damage. 4 indecent exposures out of 5. Slow rolling a 4-2 may read horribly, but I assure you this thing is worth it a surprising amount of the time, even outside of Bangun. Subtlety, thy name ain't Weyland. The free money on each first advance alone makes this kind of a spicy Weyland off-off. If you think about it for a second, at the absolute most base level here, your first advancement each turn is making you $2. That's pretty good. And that extra spice of the removal for a ping adds a remarkable amount of pressure, especially early game when they have things in their hand they really don't want you hitting. This is great in BTL, because it immediately makes you 4 credits, which is great. It's solid in any Rush New Immersive Wiki, like, pretty good there. It has the potential to be a brat with Ob, though I haven't cracked that entirely. And of course, Bangun turns into an Oaktown adjacent effect that all but forces a runner to touch the Hell remote. Because otherwise, you're just going to keep doing it to them. You're gonna click for money and do 2 other actions, and they're just gonna look at that and go, I gotta go in the remote, I gotta go touch Daniela, I gotta go deal with all this crap, I gotta go get amazed, or whatever. Like, there's so much pain in the Bangun remote, and the big problem with Bangun is that it just had no way to force the runner to actually engage with the remote, or anything that it was doing over there. Sacrifice Zone expansion says, no, you have to, because this is gonna be a nightmare if you don't. And I'm also just glad to have public agendas back as like an actual thing. Really fun mechanic. I've enjoyed a lot of stuff with that. I'm a CityWorks fan. Oaktown, obviously, one of the coolest agendas ever made. This is not as like massively powerful as Oaktown, but the way in which it provides like support and pressure is just sick. I love SZE. I think this is a really, really cool agenda, and I'm glad to have it. 57. This is Lana Campush, I believe is how it is said. 1 cost asset, 3 to trash, 2 influence, executive liability. When your turn begins, you may host one of your bad publicity counters on this asset. Has no effect while hosted. If you do, gain 3, draw a card. Okay. And as a note, when this asset would be uninstalled, interesting, take all hosted bad publicity. So you get it back, which is an interesting little layer here. So this one's tricky to evaluate. I'm going to give it 2 Carol Baskins out of 5, because in a set full of, just chock full of amazing Weyland cards, it's easy to feel down on Luana, especially when Scapegoat is so much more directly impactful. There are weird ways to ditch your bad pub with this. You de-res it somehow, you trash it. But the main goal here is to use it as bait. You know, you want to force the runner to run it because they want to hit the pinata, and because it's printing you money. The question is, what's the trap? You know, you're baiting it, but it needs to do something. Is it hostile architecture? Is it Oppo again? Like, what are you doing by forcing them to engage with Luana? I haven't figured it out yet. I have not been impressed with this. The one time I've lost against Luana wasn't the reason. Luana didn't really do anything. That was an unrelated, unfortunate Shackleton incident. As it stands, I have not been impressed with her thus far. It feels like there's something here, but I can't for the life of me figure it out. This is just a mea culpa. It feels like it would have a home in a sideways Weyland deck that I'm not sure exists, and I don't mean Ob. I want this in, like, the equivalent of, like, a Gagarin. You know what I mean? Like, this really feels like it should be doing something strong, because this is a lot of value. I just don't see it yet. I don't know how you protect her and get value out of her being run. Like, I'm just not there. But I really want to play her just for the art. She's such a scumbag. I love her. Look at the pink chainsaw. Are you kidding me? Just, yeah, really cool. Neat design. I feel like this card will be good eventually. I just don't get it yet. That's on me. 58 is Event Horizon. This is a card that I get. 4 cost, Piece of Ice, Sentry Destroyer, 0 strength, 3 influence. Trash it, and the run. Use this ability only during a run against this server. 2 subs, trash 1 installed program unless the runner pays 3 credits. End the run unless the runner pays 3 credits. I'm giving it 5 border controls, y'all. Border Control and Roto Turret shared a night of passion, and now we all have to suffer. It is frankly ridiculous that I have to rate a card on the Border Control scale 2 sets in a row. This goes in almost every Glacier deck, especially Leo, until rotation. Hard ETR on demand is not a joke. This is an incredibly powerful thing to just have. Surprisingly nasty subs if runners are face-checking sentries early. Paying through is wicked expensive. If they run into this early, be it like on your remote or what have you, then you're going to probably not get the program, and then the run's probably going to end. But $3 and an end the run is amazing value. And then once it's actually live, hey, guess what? Border Control historically is one of the best pieces of ice for when they actually have their rig. So yeah, Event Horizon's never bad. I am no longer wondering why they didn't ban Ob. I understand they want to give the Ob player something cool here. I have opinions on that, but the ban list video made that pretty clear, so I'm going to move on. Regrettably, I must type the words, at least 0 strength means anarchs can kill it on contact. Alright, moving on. The only remaining question here is how many copies of this I'm slotting into my Leo. It's probably 2. I will spare 6 influence for 2 more in the runs in Leo. Yeah, absolutely I will do this. This card is nuts. I'm very glad to have a version of Border Control back, but at the same time, oh my goodness, this is going to make just so many no-win scenarios. Yuck. 59, Flywheel. It's a 2 cost, 3 strength, 2 influence sentry. 2 subs, gain 1, you may draw a card. Gain 1, you may draw a card. Yeah, that's 3 errand boys out of 5. Of all the iced and nearprint, I gotta admit, I did not expect an upgraded errand boy. That was shocking. I was staring at that, I'm like, why is this so familiar? The subs are better, though. While this is no drafter by any stretch, only costing 2 for subs this beneficial is enough reason to slot it. Rush and Modernism decks like Vicky are happy to run this for tempo and credit advantage. Wide decks are always happy to just slap annoying non-ETR ice in front of key assets. Yeah, you play this. Between this and Paywall, it's a good time to be a fan of ice that's just annoying. I love ice that just taxes and is a nuisance, and that they kind of like, can I afford to let this fire, and then the value is uneven. And this does that. I like Flywheel quite a bit. I don't think it's amazing, but like sticking this on R&D or whatever, and then just like doing your thing elsewhere, or sticking it in front of any given asset that you care about, that's pretty good. I like Flywheel. This is a neat little card. 60, Toxin. So this is a lot of text. It does a lot of things. It's a piece of ice. It's an 8 cost, 5 strength code gate with expendable. Heyo, cool that we're supporting that. So here's the expendable. It's click, spend a buck, reveal and trash this ice from HQ. Search R&D for up to 1 barrier, for up to 1 barrier and up to 1 sentry, and reveal them. Okay, so you get 2 pieces of different ice. Add those cards to HQ. So that's what it does if you expend it. If it's a piece of ice, it has 3 subs, which are the runner loses 2 credits and the run and the run. Pretty Weylandy, like Glacier adjacent type of thing. I'm giving this 4 bing bongs out of 5. This would be a bit weak as just a piece of ice, or as just an operation that tutored the ice subtypes that Weyland actually cares about, which are barrier and sentry. But combined, That's kind of hot, I'm not gonna lie. I like this thing a lot more than I thought I would. In the rare case where Weyland needs a big-ass code gate, this is honestly pretty solid. The numbers on everything but Euler or a really big unity are strong. Like, this is a taxing code gate. It crosses that line into, okay, this is a real problem, even though decoders are generally some of the most efficient breakers in the game. The expend feels like the real win here, though, a lot of the time, especially early game. Paying 1 to reliably pull the exact pieces you need is really hard to overrate. I think reliably seeing ice that you want when you need it and exactly what you need is great. You just need to be careful what you put where since they're revealed, right? So you go get Big Ass Barrier or like Maskarovka early, right? And then you go get Event Horizon or a Winchester, depending on where you are in the game, if you're trying to protect the remote or HQ respectively, right? And you've already created a ton of value. Really, really cool. I think Toxin is just so versatile. When you tutor 2 pieces of ice with this, you are legally required to say bing and bong respectively as you pull them. Just by the way. I want you to know that. It has a bell on it. I don't make the rules. You have to do it. You have to. You don't have a choice. Number 61 is Myoshu. We're going to spend a little bit of time here. It's an operation. It costs 10. It is 4 influence. And it says, play only if you scored an agenda this turn that you did not install this turn. I feel like that sentence could be a little bit cleaner, but you get it. Add this operation to your score area as an agenda worth 2 agenda points. 4 Hikaru no-goes, but I think I'm being conservative here. Isuak players, I love this dream for you. Let's just get that out of the way. I'm not going to dwell on it. You get what it's about. This could just win you the game. Weyland's answer to Big Deal, okay, is to install an unadvanced green mail, wait a turn, and then just pull 3 points out of your ass. You get it, you get a little bit of money, you play Myoshu, congrats, you scored a 3-pointer without trying. If you're greedier on Seamless, any other agenda you can do the same thing with. Christ. My pal Carrick immediately pointed out upon seeing this within like the first minute that importing it into HB means luxury line into this scores 5. And I immediately started digging for my full art PD because I want to do that. I want to do that just as much as I enjoy hitting big deals. This costs less. It's not hard to do. I want to do that. If it was between this and an Audacity nearprint, I think I'd rather see this because it leans into Weyland's faction identity a little bit more with just the I spend a giant bucket of money and I do something cool. But being able to jump from 2 points to 7 in a turn is alarming. Why doesn't this have a trash cost? I don't understand. Like, Big Deal is comical, right? The card is 17 credits. It is massive. It represents an entire win condition, but it's very easily trashable. Measured Response, recently, similar thing, right? Like, paying to trash measured is important. The fact that that's interactable there is huge. Why doesn't Myoshu have a trash cost? I legitimately just kind of don't understand that. In practice, wins with this will not be as easy as it may appear, but there will be games at high level that end in half the time to a well-timed Myoshu. Sometimes you just can't get the last 2 points, right? Sometimes that last point eludes you. Myoshu solves that problem. It closes that gap, and that is amazingly strong. That doesn't necessarily mean you're running 3 of it, and you might hold it for a while, but this card can reliably close games out, and that is scary, 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 scary stuff. If you rush out an agenda, right? You rush out a 2-pointer, and then you manage to create a sufficiently decent scoring window, or you have enough kind of like additional advancement tech on turn 2 to score a 3-pointer, the game can just be over. That's wildly strong. And if this is strong, it's going to make for some bad Netrunner. People are not going to be happy about Myoshu. This is going to be a lot of anticlimactic games, especially at top tables, where those scoring lines are very, very viable. Like, I'm not... Again, the only reason I didn't give this a 5 is just because in my test games, yes, it is pretty difficult to pull off at certain points. But if any faction's going to be able to money the hell up and then play on not the vertices of the Go board, it's Weyland. Yeah, by the way, like, I love the art on this. I think it's really cool, but the fact that they're just playing Go Wrong is, like, the most Weyland thing ever. It's like, no, actually, it works this way. We do it this way, and when I go out for, for sushi or whatever, I tell Chef Gracias. It's the most Weyland thing I've seen in a minute. Yeah, no, I don't... I love this card. I think it's awesome. I reserve the right to change my opinion to this card is awful and I hate it if it ends up being as strong as I think it's going to be. 62 is Reanimation Protocol. This is a 2-cost operation. It's a liability. It's 3 influence. Install, res a piece of ice from archives. Paying a total of 10 less. If you resed a piece of non-liability ice this way, take a bad pub. 4 kick-flipping skeletons out of 5. This is an incredible amount of value, bad pub be damned, but with removal, either in the form of Lana or Scapegoat, whoa. There are comically large pieces of ice that you can reliably ditch in nearly every faction, all right, or in every faction, really. Then pull back with this for far, far earlier in the game than you should ever be able. This is an incredibly easy way to just get a giant piece of ice from turn 2 on. It's not even hard. Like, you dump anything, a Pharaohs, a Cloud Eater, a Seraph, like a Tier, right? Early. You plop it in there, and then you throw it on the table, and you start scoring agendas, because what the hell is the runner going to do to stop you? Oh my god. Yeah, wickedly strong. Also, and I think I call this out here, yeah, it's the rushiest rush op to ever rush and be an op. It could straight up save you versus Ice Destruction too. Like, if they trash that key thing, if they trash a brand, no they didn't. Which is nuts. If I have won entire games jamming behind the cheapest free Pharaohs with one more thing in front of it that I didn't even need to res, you can too. That's not even the best ice this works on. I'm staggered by what Reanimation Protocol allows you to get away with. This feels like the biggest bad pub payoff to me that isn't tutoring for murder in ED. Like, this is massive. Massively strong. And again, if you have any way to clear that bad pub in a particularly ice-heavy deck, more power to you. But, like, I will pay a bad pub to go get the biggest fuck-off piece of ice in my entire deck and just have it. This thing rules. What an effect. When you talk about bad pub support, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Wicked, wicked, wicked. 63 is Vulture Fund. It is a 7-cost operation. Transaction liability to influence. Gain 14 and take a bad pub. So you're netting 7. That gets 4 squeaky sharks out of 5. You know this card pool's weird when the on-demand bad pub has the sickos rubbing their hands on the window, but that's a different issue entirely. More importantly, a click for 7 is bonkers. I don't think I need to explain that. Like, clicking for 7 is just immense. You know, we're used to, like, Hansei seeming pretty huge at 5. This is 7. Okay, yeah, that's ridiculous. 2 Infa Pop makes ED a little bit sad, but it's sufficiently powerful to offset that, considering that you can gain 7 and then immediately fire a murder combo. It also just effectively pays for an oppo for the most part. Like, that is... yeah, Vulture Fund, very, 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 very strong over there. But also just a legitimately massive operation that Weyland will take advantage of. I thought I'd care a lot more about the consequences of playing what initially to me read like a worst too big to fail. But no, this is just a whole lot of money, and that is rarely bad. You will make good use of it, I swear. Yeah, very, very strong. I don't think it necessarily ends up being in every Weyland deck by default, but I'd be shocked if you didn't see it semi-regularly, just because it just represents an explosive amount, and in some cases that's applied literally. 64 is Flagship. This is a 3-cost upgrade. It's 4 to trash. It's 2 influence. It's ritzy also, but I don't think that really matters in the current pool. HQ or R&D only. Okay. Runs against the server cannot be declared successful. This effect does not cause runs to become unsuccessful. Persistent. This is new. During each run against the server, the runner cannot access more than 1 card other than this upgrade. I'm giving it 5 Chrysiums out of 5. Don't worry, everyone. Weyland's here to solve for Deep Dive and everything else while they're at it. I will gladly suffer this being 1 less to trash than Chrysium Grid, if it means it also works against Twinning and Co. Stopping a multi-access run with this is just brutal. This effect was sorely missing in Elevation, especially before Deep Dive got banned. Now it comparatively costs a premium to import, But you're still going to strongly consider it meta-depending. Like, Chrysium Grid was 1 pip of influence. This is 2. You're still probably willing to slot it in the right lists. I don't think a lot of wide decks are going to play this necessarily, but anything that's actually trying to, like, build up some ice and do stuff behind it, you're absolutely playing at least 2 flagships, possibly 3. I'm not saying in every list necessarily you're not going to import that many flagships, but in Weyland, you're absolutely doing 2 to 3. In other IDs, I would not be surprised to see this pretty regularly. It's just an incredibly powerful effect. Also, pretty fun to yank around with the new Jinteki agenda, though, again, I think that thing is more trouble than it's worth. I'll admit that my love for run events is absolutely inflating the rating a bit, because running into this with Musliad is a nightmare, but the thing is, I don't care. They're very, very good regardless. It's just strong. God, I love how slimy and blatant Weyland is in this set, too. Truly a corp for the modern era. Like, just total scumbags. Ugh, great. Number 65 is Shackleton Grid. It is a 1-cost upgrade region, so, you know, the limit 1 per server applies. 3 to trash, 3 influence. Once per turn, when the runner spends credits from outside their credit pool during a run against this server, you may do 4 meat damage. 4 PQ albums out of 5. 1 for each meat. Good to know that if stealth ever gets out of hand, the Weyland players will handle that too. This works on everything, y'all. It works on bad pub. It works on hosted credits. Any kind of fake money, you know, recurring whatsoever. If it's fake money, the runner gets shot. Printing this in the same set as so many alternative credit sources is a legitimately hilarious joke. Like, bravo. I love that they're just like, all right, we're doing, you know, all this different stuff as you're going through the runner pool. And then you get to the tail end of Weyland and it goes, hey, by the way, you're going to get shot for 4 if you do this. It's so mean. It's so mean. Like, there is no runner archetype right now that doesn't rely on some amount of subsidizing effect or recurring credit or something, and then, you know, turning off bad pub against the server that Shackleton is on. Like, no, what are they gonna do? They're gonna get shot every single time. Why isn't it unique? Why isn't it unique? What the hell? I stared at this the first time I saw it day of, because I'm like, that needs a diamond. Why doesn't that have a diamond? Why doesn't it have a diamond? This is unlikely to get splashed anywhere but the absolute nastiest Jinteki decks with any consistency, because 3 inf is a lot. But wow, any Weyland deck that wants to kill you is absolutely justified to run Shackleton Grid. This thing is so good at what it does. I am giving it this score in part because I think the threat of this is so powerful that it's going to, in and of itself, do a lot to curb the sheer amount of credit cheats that people are relying on now, and force them to play a little bit more money in breakers. As somebody who likes money in breakers, I don't see that as a massive downside. As, you know, for a lot of the other people out there, this will probably be a thing that they look at and just go, I hate this card so much. And I understand where you're coming from. I don't have that problem with it. But I do think this is really, really, really powerful. And as a release valve against anything that isn't just money, it's a really interesting balance lever that they pulled. This is one of those cards that feels like it might get banned in the future depending on how constraining it feels, because it really does feel like this just kicks the entire stealth archetype directly in the mouth in a set that was supposed to rejuvenate it. Kind of questionable on that front. It remains to be seen if this is just effective as a keep them honest measure or if it just keeps them down. I don't know, but I think it's very powerful at doing what it does, and what it does is punish the runner for doing anything other than spending out of wallet, which is cool. Final card, and it's a big one. 66, Let Them Dream. 4/2 neutral agenda, 1 influence, that's important, it's an initiative as well. When you score this agenda, you may search HQ, R&D, or archives for 1 agenda and reveal it. You shuffle R&D after searching it. Add that agenda to HQ or the bottom of R&D. While this agenda is in the runner's score area, it is worth 1 less agenda point. I'm giving this 4 pole vaults out of 5. Let me immediately sandbag the rating a little by saying I don't think this is meta obliterating. I just think it's very good. This is not as impactful as Global Food Initiative. Changing the point values matters a lot. But it is very strong. A lot of people are about to realize how much they rely on off-off's tempo and it not costing influence. 1 influence per for this is not nothing. That is a significant deck building constraint for the effect that this provides. In addition, I think the defensive mode is a lot stronger than the offensive, okay? Burying an agenda until a reshuffle is huge. That is absolutely massive. Super, super, super strong. Decks that can leverage this fully are likely to be playing longer game plans, or some sort of multi-piece combo kill or otherwise. Probably, honestly, hard to say that it's on a kill deck, but with few three-pointers. And that is a weird thing to strike. Like, they probably have one notable three-pointer, something like Lux Line or whatever, and then it's 2-pointers the entire rest of the way. And that can be a funky thing, because, again, the second you score a three-pointer, or three-pointers are available to score, Let It Dream being a 1-pointer is not a huge deal if they find another one, right? So you can't have a lot of 3-pointers because it makes Let Them Dream not matter. It matters when it causes a scoring disparity and the runner needs to steal 5 agendas, or 4 agendas, or whatever. One more agenda than the corp needs to score, basically, is my point. Like, if it creates a differential there where the amount of work the runner has to put in is disproportionate to the amount the corp puts in, that's what makes it good, right? So you need to come up with an agenda suite that is sufficiently low pointage, and therefore probably slightly more agendas, that Let Them Dream is impactful, and if they steal multiple of them, they're miserable. This should probably be played with Nightmare Archive, but I cannot be held responsible for what your opponents will call you if you do. I just want you to know that, okay? Like, dream responsibly, alright? Because the dream is a nightmare, and then they're just gonna be completely miserable. It's not gonna be fun for them. You just need to know that you're being that guy if you do it, alright? Trust me, as that guy, you're gonna be that guy. Let's make predictions that'll age poorly. So HB, these are solid cards for the most part. Leo's going to continue to be the premier purple ID, but Wide will be more of a contender. However, I'm not convinced that it'll be poetry specifically, as opposed to PD or even Thule. Hey, I'll take it if it means more fully op. I think that Wide definitely has more tools for sure. I don't know if it significantly boosts the win condition capabilities of Wide as much. I think the issue is the fragility, right? But that's always been true of purple Wide for the most part. I think that will continue. It's just a bit better now. Leo got amazing stuff. So expect that to continue to be one of the premier ways to actually score behind ice. It's not changing. Jinteki got an incredible ID. Excellent tag punishment. Not a whole hell of a lot else. Given the continued dominance of Egg, that's probably fine. I do think that RH's entire lunch has been eaten by Melies at this point. Unless you're completely allergic to the mind game of Melies, the minigame, if you're just like really bad at it or you just don't like the way that plays, you might play RH, but I will absolutely just port RH Glacier over to Melies and have a perfectly good time. Also, if you're playing Jinteki, no, you're not allergic to mind games. Shut up. You'll get the hang of it, I promise. You'll build an immunity. I think that Jinteki will probably be the top faction after the dust settles, once things are figured out, as it's extremely punishing, and it hates on deep dive better than most. The runner side of this card pool, this is a spoiler for the runner set, but I think the strongest runner card in Vantage Point is deep dive. And Jinteki does a very good job of pinging deep dives out of hand with errant net damage, or creating a scenario in which they can no longer continue to run the centrals, because if they do, they will die. And Jinteki is good at that. I think the Jinteki kill decks are spicier than they've been, even. I think that the Jinteki scoring decks are as taxing as they've been, and have a little bit of additional toolage there that's pretty good. And overall, between Melies and Egg, you have 2 incredible IDs that are doing great work. So yes, I think Jinteki will be the top dog. NBN. So this set leans pretty heavily into Bad Pub and Editorial Division, but that seems to be a pretty strong set of effects. People are going to create ED and GameNet decks that are miserable with unoptimized runners. Will eventually be solved or peter out a bit, resulting in NBN still being niche, frustrating, and hated by almost everyone, just as Lucas Litzinger intended. If ED survives long-term and continues to be a problem, they're going to ban a Weyland card to compensate. I don't think the problem is going to be an NBN card that ED likes. I think what they're going to do is just come for end of the line or something like that. I think it'll get to a point where they're like, all right, you need to use tag punishment that is not this, because we've had enough of just tutoring for murder and murdering all the time. So yeah, I think ED is really strong, but there's enough balance levers to pull that I'm not terrified as to what it'll do. Although again, like I said on that specific slide, it is going to suck for a little while. Sorry in advance, because I'm going to be part of the problem. Finally, Weyland. Dark Green got the juice this set. like I said, there's maybe one iffy card in all of Weyland. Newman's Vicky are going to clean up against runners that haven't fully figured out themselves yet. I said that wrong. But will eventually taper off a little bit. Much like they did in the previous set, I think that Weyland Rush is great against unoptimized runners, and then as soon as they start to optimize it, it's a little bit harder. But with stuff like Reanimation, maybe they'll keep up. My hottest Weyland take, and maybe the hottest take in this entire slide, is that I think Earth Station is going to make a comeback. You don't give an ID like Earth Station New Chrysium and the means to get gigantic ice for 2 credits without something good happening. Legitimately, Earth Station looks to be just brutally taxing in a way that a lot of runners are going to struggle with, and the addition of daily casts and other money to their pool might not be enough to compensate. I don't know yet. Testing thus far in our locals has been promising. Several of us are like, I think Earth Station's legit, and I'm glad I'm not completely alone on that one, because it really does seem like it could get there. BTL might end up being better, but I think Earth Station's going to show up, and that's exciting. Also, I don't know what the hell odd players are going to do with stuff like Vischeck and what have you, but I know I'm not going to like it. It's going to be rough. I hope you enjoyed Disc 1 of NSG Presents Netrunner's Greatest Hits. A lot of the cards in this feel familiar, like I said, and they're familiar in a good way. You know, it means that Vantage Point is looking back, right? I think that's interesting. I think it fleshes out the pool. Given that it's not rotating, that's a pretty valuable thing to do. We're going to do runner side next time. Like I said, it's going to take me a little bit more testing to feel like I'm fully there. I have it mostly written. I think I mostly understand where the runners are at, but I just need to put a few more cards through their paces because I've been playing stuff with that and then not actually gotten to play the cards I was trying to test with in the first place. So I need a little bit more time on that. All right. Done talking. Need more water. Thanks so much for watching. And as one more shout out, again, Atomic Empire Districts coming up end of month, right towards the end. I'm going to have a link to the event in the description. If you are on the East Coast or whatever, we would love to have you. It's going to be a blast.